Welcome. I believe this is video podcast number 79. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Well, first off, I got some good news for you. Well, it's not only good news, but it's kind of me also tooting my horn a little bit. Whereas, as my new phrase for toot my horn, man, this phone gonna be bugging me. I know brother Tony Maceo, who now writes for the Negro Manosphere. Speaking of Negro Manosphere, my latest article about the movie, the 1999 movie, The Best Man, is in the comment section. You can always leave me feedback in the comment section. Oh, but yeah, Tony Maceo, man, he's a good brother, good writer as well. And he calls my version of tooting my horn, rubbing my balls in people's faces. Rubbing my balls in people's faces. That just still cracks me up. But yeah, as you know, I'm on Patreon, as are a lot of YouTube personalities have a Patreon page. And about a week ago, maybe a little over a week ago, Patreon sent me 3 things. And I'm assuming they sent all Patreon creators this message. They sent me a message telling me the highest number of Patreon supporters I had for any 1 month, which for me was 169. I think that was for the month of December. So yeah, that was one thing they sent me, is a notice saying, they told me what was the most Patreon subscribers I had for any 1 month. And for me, again, it was 169. I think right now I got 163. Yeah, right now I have 163 Patreon subscribers. Second thing they sent me was my total amount of earnings, the amount of money I earned for the calendar year 2017. And then the most notable thing they sent me, they rank creators by their level of activity. That's based on a combination of how many posts you have on your Patreon page and how frequently you post comments and reply comments on your Patreon page. So the number of posts you have and the number of comments and reply comments. And I am glad to report I was ranked for the calendar year 2017. I was ranked in the top 5. I'm sorry, my computer is messing up. I was ranked in the top 5% of all Patreon creators. So if I had my little applause on Blog Talk Radio, remember that? For my Blog Talk Radio fans, I used to always have this applause sound effect. But no, I'm happy about that, man. I'm happy to know that I was ranked in the top 5% of all Patreon creators. Yeah, so if all the people have a Patreon page, I'm in the top 5% most active. Again, that's based on your number of posts per month and your number of comments and reply comments on a month-to-month basis. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to give my international followers one more chance. Now, I had heard from a lot of my Patreon subscribers, particularly more so my international ones, because I'm now doing Patreon exclusive live streams, and my normal starting time was 6:00 p.m. Eastern. But I had a few international followers say that was too late for them, because for them 6:00 p.m. Eastern for a lot of them meant 12 midnight their time, or 1 a.m. their time, or 2 a.m. their time. So I moved last Thursday, I moved it up to 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern, but I only had one person in my chat room. Normally I have an average of about at least 15 guys in my chat room. I only had one guy, but a lot of people said they didn't get the notification or something went wrong. So this Thursday, I'm doing another early live stream, because on most months I'm only going to do 2 Patreon exclusive live streams per month, 2 per month. This month I'm going to end up doing 3. So I'm going to do another one on Thursday. It's going to start at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern this Thursday, which is the 25th, January 25th. Patreon exclusive live stream I'm going to be doing this Thursday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. What else? News and notes. Okay. Well, first of all, oh, there's that lighting. Shine, baby. Shine. You know this is my favorite flavor of vitamin water. Okay, speaking of vitamin water, this is a beverage. I know most of you are like, okay, Alan, duh, we know that. This is a beverage, right? As you know, there are, if you go to any grocery store, there are a number of different beverages. Hold on a second. If you go to any grocery store, there's a number of different beverages that are, number one, separated by type, such as soda beverages, juice beverages, tea beverages. They're separated by flavor, orange, peach, grape, cranberry, so on. And what's the final major thing that separates the beverages? What's the final major thing that separates the beverages? And I did an episode on this in 2017. I did an episode on branding. Branding. You know, I did 1 year of the graduate business school at Indiana University. And one of the disciplines you can pursue if you're in MBA school is a discipline called brand management. Brand management. In corporate America, branding is ultra important. Vitamin water is a brand. It's a brand. Okay? Do you get that? Do you get that? Vitamin water is a brand. Why am I bringing this up? And again, this is going to kind of be repetitive because I did a video last summer 2017. Yeah, I did a whole video about stuff to do with branding, copywriting, trademarking. Yeah, you could say that was my business 101 episode. Most of my episodes have to do with dating and relationships and, you know, attraction and seduction. But I did one episode last summer that dealt with a lot of business related stuff. And the reason I'm talking about this because this is a comment / criticism I haven't received in a long time. But I've been receiving it off and on ever since I became a book author and a dating coach back in 2006. Well, technically before that. Because I wrote my first ebook in 1999. I actually wrote my first pamphlet of Mo 1 in 1995. Speaking of that, I got to give a quick shout out and kudos to my fellow dating advisor, Ron Wills. I was watching him he was being interviewed by O'Shea Duke Jackson. And somebody from O'Shea's chat room asked Ron Wills, had he and I ever met in person? And the answer is no. Actually, if I would have been in D.C. longer, I was going to contact Ron and try to hook up with him, because I was actually in the D.C./Northern Virginia area in I'm going to say the first or second week in December. But I was only there for like about 72 hours. And my schedule was pretty packed. But if I would have stayed there longer, I was actually going to contact Ron, because I want to say Ron lives in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. But no, the answer, as he mentioned on the show, we've never met in person, but I've known Ron through the internet longer than anybody else in the manosphere. Or I should say more than any other black person in the manosphere. Yeah, of all the black people. Matter of fact, speaking of that, I want to say, I don't think I've ever met another black person that's considered a major influence in what's known as the manosphere. I've never met another major black person. I've met a lot of fellow white Caucasian dating coaches, and even a few non-Caucasian. I've met a few Hispanic dating coaches and other European or Middle Eastern dating coaches in person. But as far as another black, like, dating coach, relationship expert, or, again, somebody who's considered influential that's black in the manosphere, I've never met anybody in person. But yeah, Ron and I've told this story probably at least a half a dozen times in my various videos. I first connected with Ron, I don't know the exact date. It was either the latter half of 2000 or the first half of 2001. It was one of those two. It was either the latter part of 2000 or the early part of 2001. Because what it was, I had already had my ebook version of Mode 1 copyrighted and printed, but I was looking to turn it into a paperback. So I start seeking out advice from people. Because see, back in the day, and I mentioned this a few times before, like nowadays, it's easy to get a self-published book. It's not really that challenging, and it's not really that expensive either. Whereas back in the day, like in the 1980s, 1990s, and even very early 2000s, it was challenging to do self-publishing. I would say at minimum it was expensive. If nothing else, it was expensive. Like I remember when I first looked into doing self-publishing, it was going to cost me like something like $2,000 to $3,000. And I didn't have that type of money, honestly. I didn't have that type of money. Yeah, it was going to cost me like $2,000 to $3,000 to get my book self-published, man. And so anyway, I don't want to get a long story on that, but the first person I reached out was this guy who ended up being a radio personality. His name is Michael Baisden. Some of you would be familiar with that name, Michael Baisden. He was the first person I reached out for advice on how to turn my ebook into a paperback. But I didn't, with all due respect to Michael Baisden, I didn't get any response from him, at least not directly. One of his assistants wrote me, and it wasn't really a helpful response. And the second person I contacted actually was Ron Wills. I contacted Ron Wills, and we exchanged at least 2 and maybe as many as 3. Yeah, we exchanged 2 or 3 emails back in the latter part of 2000 or early part of 2001. And he just gave me some general advice, stuff to do with self-publishing and marketing your ebook and, you know, doing book signing events and that type of thing. And, yeah. So, yeah, he helped the brother out, man. I was appreciative of that, man. And, so, yeah, that's how I first connected with Ron Wills. And then I ended up quoting. I actually used a quote from his book in my Mode 1 book. I want to say chapter 1, about how he has I use a quote from his book, Nice Guys and Players, where he says, men are, I can't remember the exact quote, it's to the effect of men aren't what they used to be. They're like a shell. I think he said they're a shell of what they used to be. But anyway, going back to the branding thing. I had somebody write in my comments section. A guy said, Aaron, even though I like your book, I'm paraphrasing his words, I don't have it in front of me. There's something to the fact that he said, even though I like your book, man, I have to criticize you like you're making money off of just promoting the general concept of honesty. It's like you took the general concept of honesty and put your own unique brand name on it, i.e. Mode 1, but all you're doing is essentially promoting and endorsing honesty. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. It's just that you took the concept of honesty and put your own unique brand name on it. Well, I say that comment, this is what I would say to that. That's half true and half false. Here's the part, I'll start with the part of it that's true. You damn right I did. You damn right I put my own brand on, I wouldn't say on the general concept of honesty, but on a certain type of honesty, yes I did. And there's nothing illegal about that. And that's why I brought up beverages. What do you think Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola did? What do you think they did? They both sell cola sodas. Kentucky Fried Chicken and Popeye's Chicken both sell fried chicken. Levi's sells jeans. Jordache sells jeans. A bunch of other brands sell jeans. Quaker Oats sells oatmeal. There's other companies that sell oatmeal. The list can go on and on and on and on and on. There's a lot of companies that sell the exact same product and or the exact same service as another company. And the only thing that separates them is their branding. Branding. And that's why I did that episode last summer where I talked about that. Personal branding. There's corporate branding. Then there's, if you work for yourself like I do, that's more so considered personal branding. Yeah. So half of me would agree with that assessment or agree. Yeah, you damn right. I brand my shit. Why shouldn't I? Again, ain't nothing illegal or unethical about that. Now here's where I would differ from that assessment. A lot of guys, and this is true of a lot of guys treat honesty like it's just one central concept. Like honesty is honesty. I hear people make comments to that effect like honesty is honesty, or Alan, all you're doing essentially is telling guys to be honest. And I pointed this out in previous videos. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Honesty is not just honesty. There's different forms of honesty. I'll give a few examples. Number one, there's bold, unapologetic type honesty versus cautious type honesty or polite type honesty. There's flattering honesty versus mean-spirited or insulting type honesty. There's upfront, specific type honesty versus delayed or postponed and beat around the bush type honesty. There's confident honesty versus non-confident or nervous or awkward type honesty. You get my point? I could go down the list and name a bunch of examples. I could probably name I don't know, at least 15, 20 different examples if I wanted to. There's all types of different. Honesty is not honesty. That's a little what some of you guys, I think most of you all get that. For most of y'all listening right now, watching me right now, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to the choir. You already know what I'm saying. But there's a small percentage of you guys, and again, this is not a criticism and comment I get like on a week-to-week or a month-to-month basis. I usually get it maybe, 2 to 3 times a year where somebody says, oh, Alan, all you're doing, when I read your books, what it really comes down to is just honesty. Well, I've pointed this out before. If you're familiar with my 4 modes of behavior, mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, and mode 4, 3 of my 4 modes of behavior center around honesty. So if honesty was just honesty, why would I need to have 3 different modes that center around honesty? The reason I got 3 different modes is because I highlight different types of honesty. For example, and again, this is repetitive for a lot of you guys, but mode 1 is when you're honest with women about your romantic or strictly sexual desires, interests, and intentions in a manner that's bold, upfront, specific, provocatively straightforward, and I would say for the most part seductive. Oh, and confident. Confident, that's another adjective. So instead of having a book called How to Be Honest in a Bold, Confident, Upfront, Specific, Straightforward, Seductive Manner, which is a whole bunch of words and syllables, I just narrowed it down to 2 syllables. Mode 1. Mode 1. Mode 1. And see, that's why if I had to toot my horn again or rub my balls again, that's why a lot of people love my brand. Like, I've had other dating coaches that have told me that. Like, I know when I was in London, I had a couple guys tell me that. They said, Alan, man, I love your brand, man, because it's so simple. It's just 2 words and 2 syllables. Mode 1. Like, you take the word honesty itself. Honesty, that's 3 syllables. Honesty. Honesty. That's 3 syllables. Like Dr. Brad Blanton, he has a form of blunt honesty he promotes called radical honesty. And it's a good book. But if I have one lighthearted criticism of his brand, and that's his brand of honesty, is radical honesty. But that's too many syllables. Radical honesty. That's 6 syllables, man. That's 2 words and 6 syllables. Mine is just simply mode 1. But yeah, mode 1 is a particular type of honesty. And then mode 2 is another different type of honesty. Mode 2 is when you're honest with women in a manner that is cautious, polite, delayed, beat around the bush, and in some cases vague and ambiguous. So that's mode 2. So both mode 1 and mode 2 promote honesty, but they're 2 different types of honesty. There's different adjectives I would use to describe mode 2 honesty versus mode 1 honesty. And similarly, it's just like mode 1 versus mode 4. And I would say, and I've talked about this before, out of my 4 modes, the 2 modes that are probably the most oftentimes confused for each other. And I hate to generalize by race. I really do. I really hate to generalize by race, but I'm going to do it. Particularly among black men, man. And I've said this before. This ain't the first time I've said that. Black men particularly. I mean, I've had a few non-black men do it too, but a lot of black men tend to confuse and conflate mode 1 and mode 4. And in some respects, I understand it, because the one way they're similar is that mode 1 and mode 4 both emphasize being honest in a very straightforward manner, a straightforward, unapologetic manner. So that's where they're similar to each other. Mode 1 and mode 4 both center around being verbally direct and being honest in a straightforward, and unapologetic manner. Here's where they differ for the upteenth time. Mode 1 is honesty that is fueled and motivated by a combination of confidence, courage, and sexual desire. Confidence, courage, and sexual desire. Those are the three things that fuel Mode 1 honesty. Mode 4 honesty is fueled by feelings of anger, frustration, bitterness, resentment. Anger, frustration, agitation, bitterness, and resentment. That's what fuels Mode 4. In simple terms, Mode 4 is when you're straightforwardly honest with women, generally when you're ticked off, when you're pissed off about something. You're angry to some degree, you're frustrated to some degree, you're agitated to some degree, you're feeling bitter and resentful. Basically, you want to tell a woman off. You want to criticize her, you want to insult her. So yes, you're being straightforwardly honest, but the things you're being straightforwardly honest about are usually negative shit, like criticisms and insults and that type of thing. That's Mode 4. So it's its own type of honesty. Whereas Mode 1 is when you're honest with women about the fact that you want to connect with them, and more specifically that you want to connect with them sexually. So for those guys who say, hell, man, honesty has been around for centuries, man. You're not the first guy to create the concept of honesty. When did I ever say that? When did I ever say that I created honesty? That would be the most ridiculously stupid comment I could ever make in my life, is to suggest that I created honesty. Nobody created honesty other than God in heaven. No human being can say that they created honesty. And even as far as specifically among dating coaches, I wouldn't say I was the first dating coach to promote honesty. Now, here's what I will say as far as my place in the manosphere. As far as my place in the manosphere, and here I go. I'm gonna do some more ball rubbing or tooting my horn. But no, I would say this. And if I'm wrong, you can respond in the comment section and challenge me on this. I would say there's at least 3 areas where I would say I was the first dating coach to emphasize these 3 things. Number 1, I was the first dating coach to come out with an ebook and a paperback that promoted the idea of not only letting women know your sexual desires, interests, and intentions in an honest manner, but more specifically in the very first conversation, and even more specific than that, in the first roughly 3 to 5 minutes of your first conversation. Name another dating coach, pickup artist, or seduction guru that promoted that concept before my 1999 ebook of Mode 1. Name somebody. I challenge you to. Name somebody. Name somebody who promoted not only being honest with women about your true sexual desires, interests, and intentions, but specifically in the first conversation, and even more specifically within the first 3 to 5 minutes of your first conversation. I don't know any other dating coach. If there is one, please enlighten me. That's the one thing I would say, that I was arguably the first guy to come out with either an ebook and later a paper book that emphasized that. Number 2, a heavy emphasis on erotic dirty talk. X-rated erotic dirty talk. Before I came out, I didn't know of any dating coach, pickup artist, or seduction guru that put heavy emphasis on employing X-rated erotic dirty talk, particularly in the very first conversation, and more specifically in the first 5 minutes of the first conversation. Who else was doing that before me? Well, I'm sure there were some guys who did that before me. I'm sure there was guys, decades ago or even centuries ago who might have did it. But I'm talking about who actually had a book about it, who came out with a book about it. Name a dating coach or pickup artist that had either one of these two, if not both, an ebook or a paperback that promoted, that put a heavy emphasis on erotic, dirty talk with women. Because most of the guys I know who would talk about talking dirty to women, they would usually talk about talking dirty to women while you're having sex with them. While you're having sex with them. I don't know too many guys that talked about talking dirty to women in an X-rated manner in the very first conversation with a woman, and more specifically in the first 5 to 10 minutes of your first conversation with a woman. Before me. And then the third thing, I think I was one of the first, if not the first, was to put a heavy emphasis on phone sex. Using phone sex as a means of seduction. I'm like 99.99999% certain I was the first dating coach or a guy in the manosphere that put heavy emphasis on what I refer to as phone sex game. Phone sex game. There was nobody talking about phone sex game before I came on the scene, man. Nobody used to talk about using phone sex as a way of getting women in bed. Because if you know my history, I always tell guys, probably starting with the mid-90s, probably 5 out of every 7 women that I've had sex with in my life, starting with roughly 1992. Yeah, I would say starting with 1992, 1993, I would say roughly 5 out of every 7 women that I've had physical sex with, I had phone sex with them at least once first. I had phone sex with them at least once first before having physical sex with them. Yeah, I was the first dating coach to emphasize both X-rated, erotic, dirty talk, and using phone sex to get women in bed. Nobody else talked about that in their ebooks or paperbacks before I came out with my book. Nobody. There was nobody on the internet who was talking about that. So all that to say, again, for you guys who simply try to sum up more one by saying, oh, your book is just all about just the idea of being honest with women. That's all it is. There ain't nothing revolutionary or, it's just all about, honesty is honesty. You weren't the first one to create the idea of being honest with women. Again, there's multiple ways you can be honest with women. There's multiple ways you can be honest with women. Like I said, you can be honest with women in a very confident manner, or you can be honest with women in a non-confident. I'll give you an example. Here would be an example of being honest confidently and being honest non-confidently. If I went up to a woman and I said, damn, you're a sexy motherfucker. You are sexy as fuck. I can't wait to slide my dick all in that wet pussy. I want to just slide my hard dick all in that tight, wet pussy. And I know for a fact I'm going to fuck you. Because I can tell by the way you're looking at me that you're attracted to me. And I know you want me to fuck you. And I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to fuck you. And I know you know I'm going to fuck you. Okay? See, that was me being honest with a woman. An example of me being honest with a woman in a confident manner. Now, here would be an example of me being honest in a non-confident manner. Hey, Linda. I don't know what you're doing on Friday, but I was thinking maybe we could, go out to dinner and catch a movie, and I don't know, maybe after the movie, maybe make out, possibly, kind of make out and even get, have sex. If that's okay with you? I don't want to offend you or anything, but I was just thinking we could go to dinner and a movie, and I'm kind of attracted to you, and I'm hoping you're attracted to me, and I don't know, I was just thinking, we could go to dinner and a movie, and after the movie, go back to my place and, maybe make out and, kiss and, and if you're up for it, even have sex. Now, in that second example, was I honest? Yes, I was. I was honest about the fact that I was attracted to this woman and I wanted to make out with her and even have sex with her. But was there anything confident about that verbal delivery? Was there anything confident about that verbal delivery? Hell no. Hell no. So that's the biggest thing I emphasize, is not beyond just honesty itself, is I emphasize confident honesty. Confident honesty. Second thing, next to confidence, I emphasize upfront honesty. Upfront, specific and straight to the point honesty. Because see, there's a lot of guys, for example, I remember I was interviewing this guy on my Blog Talk radio show. And he was talking about, he was on a dinner date with a woman, and he ended up having like a 2.5 to 3 hour conversation with a woman. And towards the end of the conversation, he was honest with her about the fact that he wanted to fuck her. So, on the positive end, I give him points for honesty, because he did ultimately tell the woman that he wanted to have sex with her. But look how long it took him. By his own admission, he said it wasn't until about the 2.5 hour mark. I think his whole conversation was about 3 hours. And it wasn't until about 2.5 hours into the conversation that he finally said to the woman that he wanted to fuck her. See, that's being honest, but that's not being upfront. See, I'm honest with women. I've been honest with women about the fact I want to fuck them as quickly as the first 5, 10, 15 seconds of my first conversation with a woman. And I would say usually no later than roughly the 5-minute mark. I would say absolute latest is roughly around the 10-minute mark. I rarely engage in more than 5 minutes of just pleasant small talk before letting a woman know I want to fuck her. There's been exceptions. There's been sometimes I might have gone as long as maybe 10 minutes. I say absolute latest the 15-minute mark. But definitely, to me, once you go, I say this in one of my books, once you go beyond the 15-minute mark, you're no longer mode 1 in my opinion. And that's being real. You're no longer mode 1. That's when you've gone into mode 2 zone right there. If it takes you more than 15 minutes of your first conversation to let a woman know that you want to have sex with her, you're no longer mode 1. You're mode 2 now. So, like, say, if you talk to a woman and at the 20-minute mark you let a woman know you want to have sex with her, or 25-minute mark, or the 30-minute mark, or the 1 hour mark, and so on and so on, that's not mode 1. That's mode 2. That's mode 2. That's why I call mode 2 the pleasant postponers. Mode 2 guys, they're honest, but they delay their honesty. So the good news is they're honest, but they delay their honesty. Whereas mode 1, man, the idea I always say for mode 1 is to let a woman know of your sexual desires, interests, and intentions within the first 5 minutes of your first conversation with her. The only exception would be if you meet a woman on the street and say she was in a hurry and she only gives you like a minute and a half to talk to her. Then you might have to wait till your second conversation before you let her know what's going on. But if a woman gives you a minimum of 5 minutes to talk to her, by the end of that conversation, she should know that you want to go to bed with her. She should know that. That shouldn't be something she would have to guess or assume. She should know that. She should know that. If she doesn't, then you weren't mode 1. So yes, just like Kentucky Fried Chicken is Colonel Sanders' unique brand of fried chicken. He didn't create fried chicken. There was fried chicken before Colonel Sanders, but he put his own unique branding on his recipe of fried chicken. That's what I did with mode 1. Mode 1 is my brand of honesty. It is my brand of honesty. Anybody can promote and endorse honesty. Just like anybody can sell cola soda, but they can't sell Pepsi Cola without risking a lawsuit, or sell Coca-Cola without risking a lawsuit. They can't call their cola Pepsi Cola or Coca-Cola without trademark infringement. And it's just like me. Anybody can promote and endorse honesty, but if they were to label their brand of honesty Mode 1, then I'm going to sue the fuck out of them. That's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, Mode 1 is my brand of honesty. But again, honesty is not honesty. There are various forms of honesty, man. Again, confident honesty versus non-confident honesty. Upfront, straightforward honesty versus delayed, beat around the bush type honesty. Provocative, seductive honesty versus basic, ordinary, conservative type honesty. Flattering, positive honesty versus negative, mean-spirited, insulting type honesty, and the list goes on. So there's variations of honesty, man. All honesty is not the same. All honesty is not the same. Again, 3 out of my 4 modes of verbal communication center around honesty. Mode 1 centers around honesty. Mode 2 centers around honesty. And Mode 4 centers around honesty. The only mode of mine that really centers around dishonesty is Mode 3. Mode 3 is the one mode that centers around being dishonest and disingenuous. But all my other 3 modes center around a variation of honesty. So anyway, final thing I want to talk about. Speaking of honesty. Oh! Remember, I did 2 videos where I talked about another dating coach, this young brother in his, I think, mid to late 30s, who said he either was the best black male dating coach or that he had his sights set on being the best black male dating coach. Now, he had said some critical things about me. But most recently, one of his followers came in my comment section and said he did a video. I haven't watched the video myself, so I haven't seen it yet myself. But one, if not 2 of his followers told me that he did a video where he gave major kudos to my book, The Beta Male Revolution. So I'm going to publicly say to him, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah. A couple of his followers told me that he did a video where he gave major kudos to my book, The Beta Male Revolution. He actually recommended that his followers and listeners read that book. So, again, I didn't watch the video myself, but assuming that what his followers told me is true, and he did give my book, The Beta Male Revolution, a thumbs up and a rousing endorsement, I say to you, AMS, I'm not going to say his full name, but that's his initials, AMS, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate that. Much respect to you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's actually, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, Beta Male Revolution is actually my best-selling paperback. Well, at least it was, I don't know, for the month of December. I'm not sure. I would have to double check on that. But I know, I want to say starting with either the month of June or July of 2017, all the way through, I want to say October or November of 2017, The Beta Male Revolution was actually my #1 best-selling paperback. Yeah, Mode 1 is my best-selling ebook version. Beta Male Revolution is my best-selling paperback. I think it is, but I'm sure Mode 1 is a close second. And Ooh Say It Again is and always has been, ever since it came out, my best-selling audiobook. Yeah, my best-selling audiobook is Ooh Say It Again. And the reason for that, among other reasons, Ooh Say It Again, I think, is my #1 audiobook that's listened to almost just as much by women as it is by men. That's why it sells so well. I would say at least probably 30 to 40% of the feedback I get from listeners of my audiobooks for Ooh Say It Again is from women. Women love those 6 verbal seduction stories in the back in part 2. They consider that audio erotica. Women, if you don't know this, you need to know this. Women love erotica. They love written erotica, and they love even verbal and audio erotica. Why do you think Talk Dirty is so big? Why I emphasize erotic dirty talk, man? Women love men talking dirty to them, man. If you're a man who didn't know that, make note of that right now. Women love when you talk. Not only while you're fucking them, they definitely love it while you're fucking them. That's like a given. That's like a no-brainer. But even as a means of seduction, of getting them into bed, and that's the whole reason I wrote Who Said Again, man. Women love, they get aroused, man, when you talk dirty to them. But anyway, yeah, man. That's why my audiobook sells so well, the Who Said Again, is because I can't tell you. I wish I could show you some of the emails I get from women, man, on Who Said Again, man. Women be playing with their pussies like crazy listening to some of those verbal seduction stories. I would say out of the 6, there's at least 3 of them I get a lot of compliments from women on. I want to say verbal seduction story number 1, women love that one. Verbal seduction story, I think, is it number 2 or number 3? I can't remember which between those two. It's one of those two. Second one they love the most is verbal seduction, either number 2 or number 3. And the final one is verbal seduction story number 6. Verbal seduction story number 6. A lot. Yeah, I get a lot of comments on those. I go as far as to say 4. 4 of the 6 stories. Verbal seduction story number 1, women love. Verbal seduction story number 2, they love. Verbal seduction story number 3, and verbal seduction story number 6. Yeah, they love, particularly number 1 though. I can't tell you how many women have told me that they masturbated listening to verbal seduction story number 1. Like, I mean, even guys be writing me. I mentioned this in one video last year. How many guys, man, they always preface it by saying no homo. They'll be like, hey man, I was listening to your Ooh, say it again. Oh, but hey man, no homo, man, but damn, man, a couple of them verbal seduction stories, man, had a brother jacking off, man. I was jacking off listening to that shit. Man, that shit was pretty hot, man. That verbal seduction story number 1, man, I was jacking off to that shit, man. That shit was hot. Yeah. Yeah, but women love that story. They love verbal seduction story number 1. And again, they also love number 2, number 3, and number 6. But particularly number 1. So anyway, yeah, that's my best-selling audiobook. The final thing I want to briefly talk about, I did a video, either my last one or the one before that, where I mentioned that some people have misinterpreted. I hate when people misinterpret my words. They don't listen to me carefully. And some people have tried to suggest that I said that the reason you shouldn't lie to women or bullshit women or manipulate women to get them in bed is because it doesn't work or it's ineffective. I never said that. I never said that. If you're a person who thinks I said that, I never said that. I never said that you can't get a woman in bed by lying to them or misleading them or manipulating them or bullshitting them. I never said it's ineffective. I just said, number 1, from an ethical standpoint, I'm just not down with it. I mean, if you want to do that, do it. I mean, you know, you're a grown adult. If you want to do that, do it. But I just don't endorse that. Because my biggest thing is, and I've said this a number of times, if you read my book, Mo 1, I point this out. See, here's the thing about being manipulative with women. Here's what a lot of men don't understand. I'll use this analogy. Think of manipulation as putting money in a slot machine. Matter of fact, if you get my book, The Possibility of Sex, what's the cover? What's the cover of my book, The Possibility of Sex? It's a young guy about to pull the lever on a big ass slot machine with a beautiful woman at the top of the slot machine. That was by design. That was by design. Yeah, go look at the cover, particularly my audiobook version. The audiobook version of The Possibility of Sex, go look at the cover. You'll see a young guy about to pull like a lever on a big Las Vegas style slot machine. I would say a slot machine would be kind of a representation of a desire to manipulate people. And what's the risk versus reward of playing the slot machines or gambling really in general? What's the risk and reward of gambling? When you gamble, you open yourself up to possibly winning more money than you spending. You, on the positive end, you open yourself up to the opportunity to earn more money from gambling than you're spending. But on the negative end, you run the risk of spending more money than you're earning or winning. That's essentially a simplified way of describing manipulation. And there's been a bunch of movies that have highlighted this fact. See, and this is what I point out in chapter 2 of my original Mode 1 book. When you attempt to manipulate women, you open yourself up to be manipulated. Let me repeat that. The more you attempt to manipulate women, the more you open yourself up to be manipulated. That's one of the reasons why I don't like to try to manipulate women. It's not just because I feel like it's unethical, but equally as important reason is because I don't want to open myself up to be manipulated. See, that's what you got to remember. What does it mean in simple terms to manipulate someone? When you're manipulating someone, that basically means that you're being dishonest about your true desires, interests, and intentions. You're being misleading about your true desires, interests, and intentions. Or you're temporarily or indefinitely trying to hide or camouflage your true desires, interests, and intentions. Anytime you're doing one of those three things, that means you're being manipulative with someone. So once again, anytime you're dealing with someone and you're either just blatantly being dishonest about what your true desires, interests, and intentions are in the short run, the long run, you're being misleading about what your true desires, interests, and intentions are in the short run or long run, or you're trying to hide or camouflage for a certain period of time what your true desires, interests, and intentions are. That means you're being manipulative. And again, man, when you try to manipulate women, man, here's why I always argue, man. Women are always going to be better at manipulative head games than men. Always. If you took the top 2 to 3% of men who are master manipulators and the top 2 to 3% of women who are master manipulators, women would always win. I'm telling you, women would always win. Why? Because men, generally speaking, only have one end game. See, in any manipulative head games, there's always an end game. There's always an end game. What is men's number one end game with just about everything they do with women? Sex. Sex. Let's be real. Men only really have one end game with women, and that's fucking them. And women know that. Women know that men want to fuck them. Women know you want to fuck them. They might not know in what context you want to fuck them. Now, that's where you can be a little deceptive and misleading. Women might not know in what context, for example, long-term versus short-term or monogamous versus non-monogamous. So they might not know exactly. Oh, you notice I got my earring back. They might not know in what context you want to fuck them, but most women, if they're reasonably attractive, they know you want to fuck them. So that's why men's manipulative tactics are so easy to predict among most women, because they know the end game. See, whereas women got multiple end games, they don't have just one end game. Women have a multiplicity of end games. It could be money. It could be just long-term non-sexual companionship. It could be a baby in their belly. It could be an employment interview. It could be to use your car. It could be for you to give them or buy them some clothes. I mean, women have more end games than men do. That's what makes women's manipulative tactics more tricky, because they have multiple end games. Men, again, generally only have one end game, and that's to get their dick wet. So yeah, that's another main reason not to try to manipulate women, because unless you're dealing with a woman who's young, super naive, and super inexperienced with men, women know the game, man. Again, if you match up the top most manipulative men in the world with the most manipulative women in the world, the women in the world are going to run circles around the men, because men only got one fucking end game. I'll close out on, I got two, I always get a bunch of emails from guys who read my books or listened to my audiobooks and learned something from it, and they'll either give me, at minimum, just general feedback, and at maximum, they'll give me a really rousing endorsement and testimonial. And I'm going to highlight these two. I had one guy, he wrote me just this morning, and I get this comment a lot. This is one of my favorite compliments about the advice I give in my books. He said, Alan, I've read a lot of books from different dating coaches and pickup artists and whatnot. He said, man, speaking of manipulative, this is what he said. He said two things. He said, man, I have to say this about your advice, Alan. Your advice, excuse me, burp no more. That was a semi-burp. I feel another one coming on. He said, Alan, your advice is the most simplistic and easy to understand. That was compliment number one. He said, your advice is the most simplistic and easy to understand. And number two, he said, there's nothing complicated about your advice. And I get that compliment a lot. And number two, he said, I also love your advice because it doesn't involve any deception or manipulation. It doesn't involve any deception or manipulation. I love that compliment. I love that compliment. I take pride in that. Yep. So that was the two things he said. He said, my advice was very simplistic and easy to understand. He said, it doesn't involve any deception or manipulation. Another guy, the other guy who wrote me, he's a young brother. He's been following me for a while, man. But it's interesting. He just sent me an email a couple days ago. He said, even though he's been listening to me for a number of years, he's read my books, he wasn't a true believer in Mode 1, and more specifically, the power, wasn't I just talking about the power of erotic dirty talk? Erotic dirty talk? He just recently had experience. He didn't fuck this woman, but he ended up having phone sex with this woman. He made her play with her pussy to the point of orgasm. And he said it just blew his mind. He said it blew his mind that he could talk dirty to a woman and get her to play with her pussy like in the first, I think it was either the first or second conversation they ever had. And he essentially said, he said, now I'm a believer in Mode 1 and a believer in the power of erotic dirty talk because of this experience. Tell you guys, man, don't sleep on erotic dirty talk. That's why I wrote, we'll say it again. But I got to get ready to go, man. I got a number of consultation sessions I got to do today. Yeah, I got actually for the rest of the week, I got consultation sessions. I got a couple one-on-one coaching sessions coming up in the next week or two. And so I'm going to be a busy man. But anyway, man, just think about everything I said. You know, quick recap. Not all honesty is the same. For those who say honesty is honesty, that's bullshit. Uh-oh.
This is a reminder. Skype consultation.
That's Alexa.
This is a reminder. Skype consultation.
My personal assistant.
This is a reminder. Skype consultation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the 3 reminders you gave me. Not 1, not 2, but 3 reminders. Matter of fact, for my listening audience, Alexa, who is Alan Roger Currie?
Alan Roger Currie is an American dating coach, self-help author, motivational speaker, and YouTube personality.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Patreon exclusive live stream Thursday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I'll talk to you then.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.